there seems to be confusion about my indoctrination video. When I say that there is indoctrination around gender going on in the schools, I mean exactly that. What I mean is, as I defined in the video, so if you haven't watched it, go watch it. I'm not going to redo it here. But when I say that they are teaching this concept to kids as young as kindergarten, actually TK, but that's California for pre-K. When I say that, it means they're teaching it to all the children as is, just like they teach water is wet. Like, this is so. People are like this. Gender is a spectrum. Gender is a thing that you make up as, you have a gender identity, that, that there is a thing called a gender identity, that there is a thing called, gender expression, that there is a thing, and all of these constructs, all of these ideas are accepted fact. Kind of like we would teach a kid in elementary school that 2 times 2 is 4. These things are so. Everybody agrees. This is how it's being taught. And everyone doesn't agree. We already have a lot of other things being taught to little kids, like the earth is warming, CO2 is terrible, the planet is in deadly danger, we're all going to die because of the climate changing. They're also teaching that to young children like it's not at all disputed. It's not disputed that the climate is changing. That's observable. We can observe, a kindergartner can't observe it, but pretty much all the scientists agree that climate is changing. They will probably all agree that climate has changed over the millennia. Multiple times. At one point, there were grape vineyards in England. But anyway, that fact is agreed upon, but we're taking that and assigning meaning to it for very young children and saying, when they can't possibly disagree or challenge it, and it's bad. And it's across the board bad. There's nothing possibly good that could come of it. And we humans are the cause of it, and we humans need to stop it. And the way we're going to stop it is these steps. That is where the indoctrination comes in. When we take a thing that we know, or some little part that we know and another little part that we hypothesize, and then we teach it as if it's all true, everybody agrees, this is the accepted understanding of it, and it means this. The same thing is happening with gender. So we're taking little children who have no reason as yet to question whether they feel like a girl or feel like a boy, whatever that means. That's a whole other concept we're teaching, is that there is such a thing, that you're supposed to feel girlness. You're supposed to feel boyness, that there's a right way to feel that and a wrong way to feel that. We could, somewhere in a box is the acceptable kinds of feelings that you feel like if you are feeling like a girl or feeling like a boy. When there isn't. When no one individual who's ever lived can say, I know what it feels like to be a woman. No, you don't. You know what it feels like to be you. And if you are a female, then you know what it feels like to be you who are a female. You don't know what it feels like to be female. That you don't. You know what it feels like to experience certain things that only females can experience. But since not all females experience all of those things, then what would you say? That they're not really female because they've never been pregnant? They're not really female because they never breastfed? They're not really female because they didn't menstruate for whatever reason? Okay? Or you have one female that has endometriosis and periods feel one way, and you have another person who has extremely light periods and goes through early menopause and that feels some different way? Are they less female? Do they not still have 2 X chromosomes? So you see what I'm saying? There is no womanness, what it feels like. What they're describing is my level of comfort, personality, temperament with what is societally described as femininity is, my comfort with that is less than it might be for, a person who loves pink and long hair and high heels and, being very frilly and very outwardly feminine according to the ideals of Western society, which says femininity looks like this. Okay? Because once upon a time, back in like the 15 and 1600s, men wore long hair and high heels. Were they feminine, or were those the norms of the time? You see how It's not caught up in things like what kind of clothes you like to wear and whether you like to wear makeup and whether you like to wear shoes with heels or whether you like to prance around. That has nothing to do with it. That's just not what it is. But when people tell a child that if you don't like those things or you do like those things, it means X. Oh, you were assigned male at birth, but you like playing with dolls. You like to sew and cook and you love the color pink and you want to wear your mom's jewelry. Yeah, you feel like a boy. And the way I know you feel like a boy is because you're doing boy things. When they teach that to children, that your gender expression is indicative of your gender identity, which they've just invented out of thin air, by the way. I don't have one, never have. I'm just me. I'm just a woman. Yeah, I don't have like a gender identity. I am Deb, and I'm a woman. End of story. End of story. I have not always been comfortable in this body because I'm human, and human beings go through periods of discomfort in their body for a wide variety of reasons. Puberty sucked, as it did for, 98% of humanity. Didn't feel all that comfortable in my body when I gained a bunch of weight, lost a bunch of weight, was pregnant 3 times, went through menopause, hated my body. I've hated my body multiple times. Other times I've loved my body. So, it really depends. It really depends on what's going on in my life and with my weight and with, with my health and a bunch of other things. But there have been many, many times in my life I've not felt okay in my own skin. 90% of them had to do with what was going on up here, not any kind of magical feelingness of womanness, whatever that is. Okay? So when we teach to children that you can feel like a girl or feel like a boy, and if you don't, even though I, the adult, couldn't possibly explain to you what that is beyond regressive stereotypes, like, would you feel like you want to play with trucks? Do you feel like you want to, in other words, do I have a taste or a preference or an interest or a curiosity in those things? That doesn't mean you feel like a boy. That means you have an interest or a curiosity in trucks. I did a lot. I played with blocks and trucks and cars, and all my friends were boys. Now, it might have been because most of the people in my neighborhood were boys. It might have been because I was very athletic and I really loved to run around and, get my hands dirty and play in the mud and things like that, because that was just my temperament. That was my personality. That's what I liked. I'm still, as you can see, a very direct person. Not a whole lot of soft edges on my discourse. So there are many, many people in my life who've called me masculine. I was actually called a dude in a dress once because of my temperament and my personality. Does that mean that I am secretly trapped in a female body? I'm a man trapped in a female body? No, it sure as shit doesn't. I'm as straight as they come, and I feel absolutely comfortable in my female body. Thank you very much. Took me a while though. But again, not because I wanted to be in a male body. No, because being in this body was uncomfortable at times, like it is for everyone to be in their body. At some point in time, it could have been 5 minutes, could have been 5 months, could have been 5 years. But we've all had those moments or those days going, I wish I would look like them, or I wish I was them, or I wish, because human beings are known to think the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. Except what do we used to teach our kids? What were we taught? That's bullshit. The grass is not greener. And further, wherever you go, there you are. So you know what happens when you get all that plastic surgery and you change your body and you change your weight and you change this and you change that and all these outward things about yourself and about how you look to the outside world, whatever. I think the only people that fixes it for are people with severe medically diagnosed dysphoria. Then maybe changing the costume will help. But for the rest of humanity who's just kind of uncomfortable with the growing up process, uncomfortable with puberty, uncomfortable, not really fitting in, uncomfortable not having a lot of friends and being popular, uncomfortable because our parents aren't getting along, uncomfortable because we're not getting straight A's in school, uncomfortable because the news is really scary. Yeah, drugs and surgery aren't going to fix all that. And when your teachers come along and tell you that all that discomfort, all that is because of this single cause, and well, they're teachers, they must know. They say they're caring and they want to help. They must know. They don't know, and that's indoctrination. And it has nothing to do with teaching children to be caring and compassionate towards those who are different. No, in fact, it's quite the opposite. It's one of the least compassionate things you can do to a confused child is confuse them further. It's one of the least caring things you can do to a child who hasn't made a decision about themselves, never mind other people yet, to tell them, this is how the world works, when it doesn't. When that's how you want them to think the world works for whatever reason. But it is not an agreed upon fact that the world or gender or relationships work that way. That's your opinion. This has nothing to do with character development. This has to do with pushing in a gender and a worldview that this is what gender is and means. This is what it means when you feel this way. When you feel this kind of confusion, when you feel this kind of discomfort, it means this. It's awfully convenient then that every conceivable kind of discomfort will land you in a pharmacist's office, buying drugs or getting surgery, or with a counselor who has one thing to say, which is, whatever you say. Awfully convenient that people are going to make a lot of money from solving your confusion. So when you watch my videos and you want to say, well, what's wrong with teaching children to be accepting of those who are different? When did I say there was anything wrong with that? And when did you conflate the don't be a jerk, don't treat other people who look and act a little differently than you poorly with we must preempt any possible mistreatment a child might, visit upon another child with a worldview that makes them accept our opinion? Because now what you're doing is you're making them intolerant of the vast majority of people who don't agree with your opinion. So where's the compassion for them? Where's the compassion for the tomboy who's just a tomboy, who's just me as a little kid? Where's the compassion for those people who are being erased because you're so convinced that this is somehow going to make them kinder, gentler little people, to teach them your worldview, if you are in fact convinced of that, which I doubt, that you're going to go and make them intolerant of someone who goes, no, I'm a girl who likes to play with trucks. No, you're not. You're in the closet. You're in denial. You're in denial. This is that. Blah, blah, blah. You're just part of the cis heteronormative bullshit lie. La, da, 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 da. Oh, such tolerance, such compassion. I can see the compassion on Twitter when people say, no, I'm just a lesbian, or no, I'm really just a gay man. I don't want to sleep with somebody who is, got the other body parts, but they've made themselves up to look like the person that I like. And they get death threats. And they get fired from their jobs. But please remind me how I'm getting in the way of teaching children to be kind and compassionate because I'm questioning this indoctrination of young children. Here's how you help children become, accepting of people who are different. Well, for starters, you don't call out differences. You call out similarities in humankind. That we all bleed red and we breathe in and out and we all had a mom and a dad, even if we didn't know our dad or didn't know our mom. Somehow we're made of the same stuff. We're the same carbon-based life forms, no matter what we look like, no matter what chromosomal set we have. And each of us individually has a right to live without being trespassed against by others for any freaking reason unless and until we trespass against them. Period. That said, you don't have to like other people. You don't have to associate with other people. You don't have to be friends with other people or take them into your confidence, but you must treat them with respect and dignity. They are a separate individual from you. That you end here and the world begins. And the other person begins at the tip of their nose. And as long as you remember that, you're probably going to be okay. Yes, words hurt. So don't be nasty. Remember the old adage, if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all? Yeah, well, there you go. We used to teach little kids that. If you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. You're not obliged to validate, celebrate, or even speak to another person. But don't be mean. Most little kids know what that means. And that's really all it takes. You don't need to whip out your gender unicorn. And in fact, like I said, all you're going to do is ensure intolerance of people who look at the gender unicorn and say, I don't think so. That doesn't describe me and my life. That doesn't describe reality as I see it, as I perceive it. And I'd really appreciate it if you stop telling me what my life is like and stop telling me who I am and am not, according to a cartoon drawn by self-interested activists. So for the last time, I appreciate everybody who watches my content. I do not appreciate having my words twisted and turned into arguments I never made about subjects I never brought up, and claiming that what I'm saying is that it's not okay to teach children to be kind to others, and that I'm instead suggesting that we leave them to what? Leave them to grow up and be nasty? That if they see a man wearing a dress, that it's okay to make fun of that person? When did I ever say that? I never said that. I never made any such argument. Never would. So, I hope we're clear. It is indoctrination to teach children gender theory as fact, period. It has nothing to do with character training, period. It is not the job of schools to teach character at that level of granularity. That is the job of parents. If parents are failing to do their job, then school can refer it back to the parents or a counselor on an individual basis. Do not treat every child like they have no parents. Do not treat good parents like they have no role to play here. Do not infantilize bad parents. And it doesn't take much to take a little kid who's already predisposed to be fairly accepting of differences because they're new here and they don't know any different, and tell them, if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. And the only other lesson that I would add, and probably not in kindergarten, but maybe by 5th grade, is don't put words in people's mouths. Least of all, to have arguments with them or about them behind their backs that they didn't make. That you're making an argument with a ghost. I'm not having that argument with you because this isn't what's happening.